Hello again. As you know, I am Eli the Computer Guy, and today we're going to be doing an introduction to Server 2012 Hyper-V. So Hyper-V is basically Microsoft's hypervisor for the server world. So, we start talking about this type of hypervisor. This is the competitors. There's things like ESXi from VMware or Citrix Zen Server, that type of thing. So when we talk about hypervisors, there's different types of hypervisors, generally what are called Type 1 or Type 2 hypervisors. Type 1 hypervisors again are ESXi, Zen Server, that type of stuff. And Type 2 hypervisors are things like Virtual PC or Fusion or Parallels or VirtualBox or something like that. Basically, Hyper-V competes on that Type 1 hypervisor level, even though I guess there can be a little bit of an argument about whether or not it's technically sort of kind of a Type 1 hypervisor, because it's a little different with the other ones, but let's just not worry about that for now. So basically, when we're talking about Hyper-V, we're talking about virtualization in a server environment for Microsoft. Now, what I like about Hyper-V, what makes Hyper-V a lot nicer than some of the other virtualization solutions out there, the server-based solutions out there, is it's a lot easier to configure and it's a lot easier to manage. So if you're dealing with things like Zen Server, a lot of times with Zen Server, when you initially configure it, you have to come up with a storage pool. So you actually have to come up with a SAN or some place in order to store the data. That's a real pain in the butt. One of the reasons I like ESXi or Hyper-V is that you don't have to do that. You can use local storage. So all of your virtual machines can reside on local storage if you want them. Then you go into, when you're dealing with things like Zen Server or ESXi, you have the Type 1 hypervisor, and then you have to have some kind of management software. So the hypervisor is on one piece of hardware that stores all the virtual machines, but in order to manage that hypervisor, you have to go to a different computer, install the management software, and you use that to connect to the hypervisor and configure and manage all this stuff. That is an extra layer, which if you've been a technology professional for a while, it is not that big a deal, but it can be very confusing. What I like with Hyper-V is that you can actually manage your virtual machines right from the server. So you can just sit down, log into the server, see all your virtual machines. Not only is it running the virtual machines, but you can also get in there, configure them, change, do all that kind of stuff. So in a lot of ways, Hyper-V is very nice. Again, if you want to get into an argument about virtualization, this is not the place to do it. There's reasons to use VMware. There's reasons to use Citrix. There's reasons to use Microsoft Hyper-V. What I would argue, the reason to use Microsoft Hyper-V is, one, it's Microsoft. So your company probably already owns the licenses and such to be able to use it. And two, being Microsoft and being Windows in a lot of ways is a lot easier, especially to start out with when you are playing, to start messing around with it. Now, if you want to start messing around with Hyper-V today, you can download the Hyper-V server for free. Actually, just like all these other hypervisors, the Hyper-V server is you can download a base installation, I guess, of Server 2012 that has Hyper-V installed, and you can use that for free. Or you can go and you can download the 180-day trial versions of the server software and install Hyper-V. And so that is what I have done, and that is what I will show you today. So if you go to the website, I'll put the link below this video. Basically, you go there, you can download and install a 180-day trial of Server 2012, and then play with it. So it's a pretty good deal. So yeah, this is one of those things that even if you're a new person to virtualization, you should not be scared of. So with that, let's go over to my computer so I can start showing you what's going on with Hyper-V. And I think you will like what you see. So here we are. So basically, this is just I have a Server 2012 machine, and we are looking at Server Manager. So this is basically just a stock standard Server Manager. Now, what we're looking at right now, just so you guys don't get all scared and confused, is all this is. This is just standard Server 2012, nothing else. So I downloaded the 180-day trial version, and that's all we're looking at right now. So I've already installed Hyper-V because I just don't want to have to mess with the process. But that is one thing you have to realize whenever you're dealing with the Microsoft server software nowadays, is you actually have to go through an installation process. So it's not like Hyper-V is just there. You just get to start using Hyper-V. You do have to go through a tiny little easy installation process. So in order to install Hyper-V into your server, all you have to do is you have to go over here to Manage. So you click on this Manage, then you go to Add Roles and Features. Then once you've gone there, then you do Next, and then you do Next, and then you do next. And then here, where it gives you the roles, what you do is you go down and you find Hyper-V. So under File and Storage Services, there's Hyper-V, and all you do is you check off the box. It's real difficult. Check off the Hyper-V box, and then you do next, and then you do next. And then, like I say, I've already installed this, so it won't let me go any further. But basically, once you, on the previous thing, once you click on this Hyper-V, you'll just go next, install, and then it will go through the process and install it. I think for me, it had to reboot the system. But there's no other, that's it. That's all it takes to install Hyper-V, which is really nice. You don't have to download any service packs. You don't have to, it's already here on the server. So then once you have installed Hyper-V, again, Server 2012 is a little confusing because once you've installed Hyper-V, you'll see this little link on the left-hand side. You'll be like, wow, look, I've got a link. What can I do with this link? And the fact of the matter is you can't do very much with this link. This link just shows you some information that may or may not be important if you actually have a lot of virtual machines running. If you actually want to manage your Hyper-V, what you have to do is you have to go over here to Tools. So you click on Tools, and then an option will have shown up called Hyper-V Manager. So Hyper-V Manager is what you use to actually manage Hyper-V. And so we click on that, and then the Hyper-V Manager shows up. So with here, we have one Hyper-V server, so that shows up, the win-do blah blah blah, that is the name of this particular server. So that shows up here, and this is the one we're managing right now. Then it shows us the virtual machine, so I've already installed at Server 2012 a virtual machine and Ubuntu virtual machine. It's highlighted the Server 2012. We can see things like the checkpoints that I have created in the Server 2012 box. We can go down, we can see the heartbeat, is it running okay? We can see the memory usage, we can see some networking information, we can see replication if it was set up, so on and so forth. So this gives us some of our base information here. So this is where all of our virtual machines are, and then if we select the different virtual machines, we will see different things. What's really nice here, and this is what I like about Hyper-V, is again, if I'm going to do management, so let's say I want to actually play with this Ubuntu server, I don't have to do anything fancy. All I have to do is just double click this Ubuntu server, and the Ubuntu server comes up, and I can start playing with it. So again, this is one thing I like about Hyper-V. I don't like with ESXi and some of the other ones. So with the other ones, you need its own management software and all that kind of stuff. With this, I can just sit there, double click, do whatever I want to do. And then the cool thing is when I hit the X and I close out, the machine keeps running. So unlike some of the Type 2 hypervisors, so a lot of the Type 2 hypervisors, when you exit out of the window, it will shut down the machine or suspend the machine. With this, the virtual machine is always running unless you tell it not to. Now, one of the important things with Hyper-V for you guys to understand is before you start creating virtual machines, the first thing you want to do is you want to create your virtual switch. So whenever you're dealing with the virtual world, the cloud computing world, not only do you have cloud computing, right? Cloud computing, Ubuntu, Server 2012, whatever, up there. You also have cloud networking. So a lot of you guys completely and utterly forget about cloud networking. And so cloud networking is fundamentally how are these computers going to talk to each other and to the rest of the world. And so with Hyper-V, you actually have to set up that virtual network, I would argue, before you start setting up virtual machines. Because if you don't have a virtual network or virtual switch set up, then you're not going to be able to connect to the network, and you're going to get frustrated. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to go up here, so with Actions, under the server, you're going to go and you want to click on the Virtual Switch Manager. So the Virtual Switch Manager is what shows you your virtual switches. Basically, virtual switches is your virtual network and allows you to create one. So I created a virtual switch here, and as we can see, this is an external network. So the external network basically says that it allows me to get to the outside world. So my virtual machines that are connected to this particular switch will be able to get to the outside world. It says which network adapter I want to use, so I'm using the Qualcomm whatever, and then that's basically all I've set. Now when you're first starting out, you're going to have to click on the new switch. Oops, come on. You're going to have to click on the new switch, and basically all you have to do is create. So again, you have the option of external, internal, or private. Basically, external means that your computers will be able to talk to the outside world. Private means your virtual machines will only be able to talk to each other. So I would say in the beginning, just do the external and then play around with these other ones. Then what you can do is you can create the virtual switch, Then you can give the virtual switch a name. Then you can say what network card or network adapter you're going to use. So I actually have this running on a crappy Asus laptop. So I have a wireless card in there and a hardwired card. I would argue, especially if you're going to do this on a laptop, use the hardwired connection. That'll be better for you. Then you can play around with some of this other stuff, but I would generally suggest you don't. And that's all you have to do in order to create your virtual switch. And then you just do OK. I'll click cancel now. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to do that virtual switch. Once you have done the virtual switch, then I would argue you can go over and then create your new machine. So up here, you click on the new, and then you click on virtual machines, and you go through the process to create your new virtual machine. So we go next. We say, you know, what do we want this thing to be called? Then we do next. Then it's asking you what generation of virtual machine. So generation 1 or generation 2. With generation 2, basically that only works if you have a server, if you're putting a Windows Server 2012 instance or a Windows 8 instance on there. So if you're not doing that, you have to stay with generation 1. Period. So I would argue at this point, being an introduction, just leave it with generation 1. Your life will be a lot easier if you do. Then you click next. Then from here, it asks you what the startup memory is. So how much RAM do you want to give this machine when it starts up? 512, a gig, 5 gigs, I don't know. Just keep in mind, you know, your computer only has so much RAM in it. So if you give this thing too much RAM, it can cause a lot of problems. Now, the question then is startup memory. So this is how much memory it gets when it starts up. The cool part is built into Hyper-V is this dynamic memory. So with dynamic memory, Windows, the Hyper-V, will start giving the server as much memory as it needs. So you can have it start at 512, and then as it needs more memory, it will automatically allocate that amount of memory. This is one of those, again, we start talking about technology and IT, there's art and there is science. So if with a startup memory, you can put in a number here, and if you do not check off the use dynamic memory, then that is the total amount of memory that server will ever get unless you change it later. If you do the use dynamic memory, it will automatically grow. Again, do you want it to automatically grow? I can't tell you. That is all up to you. So I'll just click on the use dynamic memory to make my life a little bit easier. Then we click next. Then here's where we come to that connection part, right? So if I did not set up the virtual switch in the beginning, then when I do this connection, it will just say not connected, and that's just a pain in the butt. So what I can do is I can do this new virtual switch. That is the one that I created. And so now this server, this virtual machine will have a network connection. Then I do next, you know, create a virtual hard drive. What size do I want it to be? Again, be very careful with what size. Don't overload your system, so on and so forth. So then you can click next. Then now it says, do you want to install the operating system later? Do you want to install the operating system now? So on and so forth. So if you have a physical, you know, drive on your computer, you can use that. If you have an image file, you can use that. And then, you know, you can go from there. Once you select what this is, then you can click finish and it will create the machine. Now, one thing just to realize with this whole install operating system now is it doesn't actually automatically install the operating system. It will start doing the operating system after you start the machine for the first time. So that's the thing. Don't sit there and like give it an ISO file and then hit finish and then think, okay, now I have an instance already installed. No. You've actually got to start the instance, run through the whole installation process, and then you'll be good to go. And then from there, you can just hit, you know, like I say, finish and cancel, and then that will have created the machine for you. Now, one of the cool things with this is we can go in and we can take a look at settings, right? So if we just right click on any of our machines, we can go here and we can click on the settings. And this, again, this will show us our configuration. So if you're used to hypervisors, you know, if you're used to the VirtualBox or anything, this looks pretty normal. But the big thing, so, you know, yada, 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 until we get down to the bottom, the important thing that I want you to look at is this automatic start action, right? So we're talking about a server now. So when we're talking about servers, we want servers to do things automatically. We don't have to want to do things manually. So what if there is a power outage? What if we have to reboot the Hyper-V server, so on and so forth? Do we want to manually have to start up all these different virtual machines? And the answer, of course, is no. So automatic start action, what do you want the virtual machine to do when the physical computer starts? Nothing. automatically start if it was running when the service stopped. Always start this virtual machine automatically. So again, that's your option, what you want to do there. So basically, when this machine boots, what do you want to have happen to this particular virtual machine? So that's kind of nice. You can have different virtual machines and give them different, some don't do anything, some start up, so on and so forth. The other thing that is kind of nice here is you can do a startup delay, right? So whenever a server is booting up, that is when it requires the most amount of resources. So let's say you're booting up the host operating system and you're booting up 10 virtual machines all at the same time. Man, that is gonna kill your server. It's gonna peg out your CPU, it's gonna use up all your RAM, there's gonna be all kinds of nasty issues, right? So what you can do is you can put a delay in here. So you can say this virtual machine gets delayed by 30 seconds. The other virtual machine gets delayed by 90 seconds. The other virtual machine gets delayed by 300 seconds. So you can kind of have a stepping process for all of these different virtual machines booting up. Again, this is the difference between an art and a science. If you've got 128 gigs of RAM and a PCI Express hard drive and all that kind of stuff, do whatever the hell you want. But if you have a rather normal server, simply having this delayed start really will make your life a lot easier in some ways. And then of course we have automatic stop action. What do you want the virtual machine to do when the physical computer shuts down? And you can set and you can do all of those configurations and all that kind of stuff. Beyond that, I mean that's basically all there is to Hyper-V. And that's one of the nice things with Hyper-V is that's pretty much it. I mean it's about as easy to use as VirtualBox. It is just simply a server grade solution. Beyond that, you can go in and you can do things like you can create checkpoints, and so this is very easy with Hyper-V World. So with Ubuntu, basically with a checkpoint, what that is a restore point. So I say, okay, I like the server as it is now. Now I'm going to make some modifications. If I don't like the new modifications, I can restore to the previous checkpoint. So in order to create a checkpoint, all I have to do is highlight the server, go over here. You will see the Ubuntu server. We'll just create a checkpoint. Oops. Come on, give me a checkpoint. There we go. Create a checkpoint. Anyways. Of course it's causing me problems right now. Damn you, create a checkpoint. So it'll create a checkpoint, and then after that what you can do is you can simply restore to the there we go. So we got the checkpoint, and then if we want to restore to a checkpoint, it's pretty easy. All you do is you click on the little restore button and it will restore back. And of course it's causing me a little bit of issues right now. Come on. There you go. If we go back, we can revert. So revert will restore to the previous checkpoint. So that's really nice too. If you're going in, you're playing with the computers, making modifications, you create a checkpoint, you make all your modifications, you decide you don't like them, all you do is you click revert, it will revert you back to the last checkpoint, and away you go. So that's really all there is for Hyper-V, or at least the introduction to Hyper-V. Again, there's some replication, there's some other cool stuff we'll talk about later, but that's really all there is. So if you want to start playing with Hyper-V, again, all you have to do is you have to download the 180-day trial of Server 2012. That is what I would suggest you do. You go in and you start playing with it and go from there. Again, it's not... Again, ESXi sucks in some ways. I mean, it's not horrible, but ESXi is a bit of a pain. Again, Zen Server is a big pain. Hyper-V is easy. Again, Hyper-V is as easy to use as VirtualBox. It really is. The confusing part is that you have to install Hyper-V, and then you have to go to the Hyper-V, tools, and then go to Hyper-V Manager. But that's like the hardest thing. Once you understand how to do that, the rest of it's pretty easy. It's pretty standard. As far as a lot of people are worried about, what hardware, can Hyper-V run on the hardware I have? What I would say, because everybody wants to go out and look at hardware compatibility lists and all that kind of crap. Again, I have this running on a crappy $500 Asus laptop. Basically, your CPU has to have virtualization support. Almost all CPUs that have been built in the last 7 years have virtualization support. I mean, unless you bought some like $200 computer, it'll have virtualization support. So I would argue, instead of worrying about hardware compatibility lists and all that kind of horse crap, just install it and see if it works. Because I bet you 99.9% of the time it will work, and then you'll be fine. Beyond that, for hardware, do remember you're doing virtualization. So there is the ability for the computer to do virtualization. That's where you need the virtualization component of your CPU. And then there's simply how many resources does your system have. If you've only got 2 gigs of RAM and some kind of single core processor. Virtualization may work. It's just not going to work, if you get what I'm getting. You know what I'm saying? So if you are going to be playing around with Hyper-V, I would argue at a minimum find a machine with about 8 gigs of RAM, good dual core processor at least, and go from there. Just realize, when you're playing with that machine, the more resources it has, the easier your whole virtualized life will be, if you kind of get what I'm saying. Now, the final question is, since we are dealing with Microsoft World, the question then comes up with licensing, right? Because Microsoft is big about licensing. That's how they get paid. You pay $700 for the Server 2012 license, and then you pay for client access licenses, and this license, and that license, and the other license, and what I will say is, if you're worried about licensing, if you're really looking about if you're really looking about to use Hyper-V in a commercial environment, not this little trial world playing around with, call CDW. I'm telling you, back when I was a consultant, I called CDW all the time. They are not a sponsor. I don't make any money off them. Blah blah blah. They are just a lifesaver, because Microsoft licensing is just insanely, foolishly stupid. And yeah, so that's what you have to figure out. Because when you do the Hyper-V virtualization, if you have Server 2012, I think that gives you licenses for 2 virtual 2012 servers, I think. But then you have to worry about client access licenses. And then if you get the data center version, you get unlimited. You can do unlimited virtual servers, but that's per box. And each license for data center edition is $5,000. And then again, it's also not client. Oh, it's just a mess. So if you're going to be, I will warn you. I'm warning you right now. Right? Whenever you're dealing with Microsoft, there is the technical component, which isn't too bad. And then there is the legal business world. And so if you're going to be deploying this into a real business environment, find a licensing professional. Again, I would argue CDW. I think they're the best at it. But find somebody else to make sure you know what you're doing. Because this is the type of thing that can seem like it's free. Again, you can go out and you can use the Hyper-V, hypervisor server for free until, well, you need this license and that license and the other license. And all of a sudden that free server costs you $10,000, if you get my drift. There you go. That's my thoughts. So as the introduction to Hyper-V, 2012 R2, actually 2012 R2 Hyper-V server. Again, it's easy peasy. Just grab a machine, throw it on there, start playing with it. I would argue this is the best place to start. Truly. Again, not getting into the argument of Microsoft and VMware and all that. If I had to run a class, if I had to train noobs in virtualization, this would be the place to start. You get server grade virtualization in something that is as easy to use as VirtualBox. Again, once you deploy to your real data center, that's a different story, but at least in the beginning, Hyper-V really is the easiest server grade virtualization I've seen. NerdsWeCanFixThat.com. If you're thinking about starting your own computer services company, but you don't want to have to worry about coming up with a logo and copyright and trademark and all of those kinds of things, you may think about buying into a computer services franchise system. Nerds We Can Fix That is a computer services franchise system. They have 62 franchises throughout the United States. They can franchise in every state other than Hawaii. They also franchise internationally. If you're thinking about starting your own computer services company, you should contact them, fill out the information below, or give them a call. Again, as I will say, franchise systems are great for a lot of people, not so good for others. Always make sure to do your due diligence, but if you're thinking about starting a computer services company anyway, you might as well contact Nerds We Can Fix That to see what they have to say. AddAccess.com. If you're dealing with Active Directory on a large scale, so you have hundreds of users to add, hundreds of users to disable, so on and so forth, you may want to take a look at AddAccess.com. This is Active Directory management and automation software. So this tries to automate and simplify the Active Directory workflow. So if you are in a large scale Active Directory infrastructure, take a look at AddAccess.com. Spiceworks.com. These guys have the free network management software, the free mobile device management software, the free community with millions of users. So if you're an IT professional and you need support, Spiceworks is a great place to go. All of their stuff is basically free and just an absolutely great thing. Again, if you have any questions that I don't answer in the show that are technical in nature, we're talking about Active Directory synchronization between sites in remote areas. If you click on the link below this video, video that will take you to the Spiceworks community. They have millions of users there that will be able to help you out. So take a look at spiceworks.com. Altaro.com, A-L-T-A-R-O.com, if you're dealing with virtualization in a Hyper-V environment. So we're talking about Windows Server 2008 R2, 2012, and 2012 R2. Take a look at Altaro.com. They have a number of Hyper-V backup solutions. They have the free version, which will back up to 2 VMs for free forever. They also have the unlimited version, starting at only $400 per host. I think this is a very good value. So if you are dealing with Hyper-V virtualization and you need a backup solution, take a look at Altaro.com. Plixer.com. Plixer deals with NetFlow analytics software. So NetFlow is a component of Cisco equipment that shows you what's going on at the network layer, what devices are talking to what other devices, what kind of network jitter, all of that kind of stuff. So Plixer has a free piece of software called Scrutinizer. Scrutinizer is a free NetFlow network traffic analysis tool. So if you want to play around with NetFlow, if you want to see what's going on with the network layer and you have Cisco equipment, take a look at Plixer.com. Click on the link below this video. It'll bring you to this page where you can download Scrutinizer, the free NetFlow network traffic analysis tool. Total Seminars, TotalSim.com. If you're looking for your A+, your Net+, your Security Plus certification, they have video training, practice test, exam vouchers, and more. If you are on the CompTIA track and you are looking for study prep material, study guides, that type of thing, take a look at Total Seminars, TotalSim.com, TotalSem.com. Spiceworks.com. These guys have the free network management software, the free mobile device management software, the free community with millions of users. So if you're an IT professional and you need support, Spiceworks is a great place to go. All of their stuff is basically free and just an absolutely great thing. Again, if you have any questions that I don't answer in the show that are technical in nature, we're talking about Active Directory synchronization between sites in remote areas. If you click on the link below this video, that will take you to the Spiceworks community. They have millions of users there that will be able to help you out. So take a look at spiceworks.com. SchooleyMitchell.com. If you are trying to find new internet or telephone service, or if you're trying to find better internet or telephone service, or if you're trying to find less expensive internet or telephone service, give Schooley Mitchell a call. Basically what these guys are telecom consultants. You call them, you say what you need for yourself or your client, and they figure out the best option. They get paid entirely from commissions that come from the internet service providers or the telephone service providers, so you don't pay them anything. Basically, you call them up and you say, hey, I need internet service. They show you what all the options are available, and you pick the one you want. SchooleyMitchell.com. So today's hands-on review is of the Rocki, R-O-C-K-I. And oh, the Rocki broke my heart. The Rocki broke my heart. The PR company contacted me about this thing. It was like, do you want one of these? And I was like, that sounds awesome. And so I had them ship me, and they actually sent me 2 of these guys. And then my heart was broken because they don't quite work the way I thought they would. So basically the idea with the Rocki, right, is this is a little device. And what you can do is you can plug any type of speaker into it. So you can plug earphones into it. You can plug other external speakers into it. And then what happens is it'll wirelessly connect from your smart device to the Rocki. So the idea then is, there's a lot of Bluetooth speakers out there. There's a lot of wireless speakers out there. But the problem is you're kind of stuck with the speaker that the company gives you. So if you get something from Logitech or Boombox or any of that, you get whatever speaker they give you. Well, the question is what if you already own nice speakers, JBL speaker or Bose speakers or something like that, and all you want is wireless connectivity. You don't want to have to go out and buy a whole new speaker system. And so that's the cool thing with this whole Rocki, is you can plug those old speakers into this, and then it becomes wireless. So from your mobile device, you can play music. It will get picked up on here, it will go out through your beautiful stereo system or whatever, and everything is good. Unfortunately, the implementation of this thing leaves a lot to be desired. So my hope was, I didn't realize before I got this, is I was thinking that these things were going to be Bluetooth. Let me tell you, if the creators out there are watching this, these should be Bluetooth. They should be Bluetooth. right? So I thought it was going to be Bluetooth. I was like, okay, well, I'll use my phone to connect to this thing, and then I'll be able to play music, and that will be great, and that'll be wonderful. So I can play YouTube, or I can play Pandora, or I can play Rdio, all these things that I use, and be able to put that out through my normal speakers. The issue is that's not really actually how these things work. So let's go over to my little table for a second so I can kind of show you this thing up close and kind of explain to you guys what's going on. So this is the Rocky, so R-O-C-K-I, and these are the two different ones. You can see, you know, they've got a decent little size on them. You know, they're big enough that they're not easy to lose, but small enough you can just shove them in the pocket. And this is all they are. You know, they're rubber covered and all that kind of stuff. And so the idea here is they've got a battery in here, or you can plug it into the USB adapter. And then, you know, any speaker or earphone you have, you can just plug in here, and then the music will play out. So basically the music comes in wirelessly and then plays out. Again, my hope is that this was going to be Bluetooth, but what I found out is, in fact, it is actually Wi-Fi. So you have to install their app onto your mobile device. So if we pull this up, we can go in here, see, basically I have this Rocky app here. So you actually have to click on the Rocky app, and then once you've clicked on the Rocky app, you go in, you can add multiple different Rockies supposedly, and then you say, you know, where you want the music to come out. So I click on the Rocky, and then I can click on the music, and then I can click on play, and then it'll play the music out. The issue is all of this has to be done through the app. So it's not like I can have Pandora on my phone and play Pandora out through this thing, or I can have Rdio on my phone and play it out through this thing, or I can have YouTube on my phone and play it out with those. Those are all the services that I use. The issue with this is you actually have to use their dedicated services. So they have SoundCloud and Last.fm on here, which frankly I don't use. And so that's kind of the issue with this thing. So the interesting thing is what happens is you install the app onto your smartphone. Then once you've installed the app onto the smartphone, it tries to find the local Rocky. You then connect the Rocky, but the Rocky then gets connected to your wireless network. So your 802.11a, G, B, N, AC, whatever you have. And then once that has happened, this app then sends the music over the wireless network to the Rocky. And so again, I love the wireless thing, but the whole problem with the app and all that is a lot of an issue. And the issue then becomes is any music that you have locally on this phone that you can play. So if you have MP3 music, you can play out through this. But again, if you're trying to do Pandora, Rdio, or any of that, that does not currently work. So there you go. I mean, that's the thing. If we go over and we take a look at the website for this thing, you can go to myrocky.com and it will show you all this stuff. We can go and can take a look. If you want to buy now, again, the issue with these is, I mean, they are a bit pricey. It's like $49 for one, $98, $145, so forth. So, I mean, I don't know, $50. $50. I think it's a cool idea. It came off of Kickstarter. I think it is an interesting idea, but I don't really think it's ready for prime time, because the issue is again, it only works with local MP3 files or SoundCloud I don't use, or Last.fm I don't use. The first one that I used and configured and set up worked really easily, but you're supposed to be able to configure multiple of these guys for the same device. And I found that the second one, it was incredibly hard to get this thing to get configured. It was just glitchy. It would connect, but it wouldn't connect to the wireless. I also found that SoundCloud, I actually created SoundCloud and Last.fm accounts, but then when I tried to connect to those accounts using the app, that didn't really work either. So yeah, I don't know. Whenever these companies send me these kind of devices, I don't normally like to do like bad reviews, to be honest with you. But I don't know. The Rocky is, what is it they say with chimpanzees? Chimpanzees are only 2% different than humans, but it makes a world of difference. And I think that's where we are with the Rocky. I think the Rocky is like the chimpanzee of computer devices. It's really close. It is really, really, really close, but it is just absolutely, I don't think it's there, and I wouldn't pick pay 50 bucks for it. The idea of having a wireless device that you can connect your other speakers to, I think is absolutely and utterly awesome. I like the build quality. They look nice. They're kind of cool and all that, but what they've created with their app and all this is just a bit of a nightmare, to be honest with you. So that is my thought of the Rocky. Again, I'm sad to tear up one of these things, but I don't know. It's a beta. It's an alpha. Alpha test is what I would argue. So that's it. The Rocky, if you're interested, again, just go to myrocky.com and take a look at it. If you've got a lot of local MP3 files and you want to play those out through your speakers, maybe it'll work for you, but I don't know. That's something for you to think about. So this question comes from Walter C. Let's see here. I help a small school run their network and I need to move them from Windows 2000 server to Windows 2012 server. Do you have any videos on moving Windows 2000 Active Directory user passwords to a Windows 2012 Active Directory? So no, I don't actually have any videos on that because I don't really think you would really need any videos. And also, like, nobody in their right mind should still be running Windows 2000 servers. Windows 2000 servers were awesome. I remember when they were brand new and they were fabulous 14 years ago. Now get away from them. The important thing I want you guys to realize when you see things like Windows 2000 servers out there, or even the Windows 2003 servers nowadays, is you need to get your clients, you need to get your users, you need to get yourself off of these servers. And you may be sitting there and you may be like, no, Eli, no, the servers run fine. Why, if I have a file server, why do I need to buy a 2012 server? The 2000 server, it works a-okay. And the issue that you're going to run into is that the hardware is going to fail and that you're not going to be able to find any replacement hardware anymore. That's the biggest problem with these older servers, like the Windows 2000 servers or even the 2003 servers, is they're trucking along fine until one day when the motherboard dies. It just normally dies, and then you're sitting there and you're going, okay, well, it's no big deal to swap a motherboard except the fact that nobody sells motherboards anymore for that particular model, and then it becomes all kind of a nightmare. So the one thing that I will tell any of you guys, if you're still on 2000 servers or 2003 servers, get the hell off of them. Even if you simply virtualize. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not telling you to go out and buy, a zillion new client access licenses. You can virtualize a 2000 server. I wouldn't do it, but you could, right? So you just turn it into a virtual machine and then send it into Hyper-V. But basically, you want to get those servers off of that old hardware because that old hardware will die, and when it does die, all kinds of insanity will ensue. I ran into that quite a few times when I had my consultant shop, where basically really just run-of-the-mill problems would happen, but you're dealing with server hardware, which is harder to purchase and harder to find than normal desktop hardware, and the machine is 10 years old. Add that together, and basically you ran into problems where instead of a repair taking 30 minutes, it would end up taking a week and a half, simply because you'd have to find the part, get the part shipped in, all of that kind of nastiness. So, get off your 2000, 2003 servers. Then the question becomes, okay, so if you're going to be migrating from 2000 or 2003 or 2008, how do you move your Active Directory? So you've got all of your Active Directory, usernames, passwords, groups, all of that kind of stuff. Generally, that's one of the nice things with the Windows world is what you can do is you can actually add a new Active Directory server or promote an Active Directory server, whatever, to the old domain, replicate all the data into the new server, and then basically turn the old Active Directory server off. So if you're dealing with 2000, there may be a little bit of software or whatever you have to run first. Make sure you go and Google search and go to Microsoft.com and see what they have to say. But I know they have information on migrating from 2000 to 2012. But basically what you do is you spin up your 2012 server, you make it a member of the domain that 2000 Active Directory is running. Then you make it a domain controller for that domain. That data synchronizes between the two. Wait a day, wait 2 days, make sure the data synchronizes between the two properly. Then what you do is you pull the old Active Directory server offline. You just pull it offline. You don't do anything to it. You just turn it off. All you do is you turn it off. Then you keep your 2012 server running and doing all of its things. And then if it's doing everything fine, then after a certain amount of time, you can just throw your 2000 server away. So that's the nice thing with Active Directory. Since Active Directory does all of this kind of replication, it makes life a lot easier. The one thing that you may run into, maybe a little bit more of a problem, is a lot of times when people say Active Directory servers, they mean Active Directory and file and print and a whole bunch of other things. That's where it gets to be tedious and nasty. Actually, honestly, migrating to a new Active Directory server is no big deal. Really, migrating to a brand new Active Directory, doing this whole process, it takes you a little bit of time. Who cares? Easy peasy. The issue runs into is if you're actually running also, print services, if you're also running file services, all of that kind of stuff, recreating those files, doing the permissions, all that kind of stuff can be a pain in the butt, but that's its own little deal. So Active Directory, all you do is you bring up the new server, you connect it to the old domain, you do the synchronization, then you pull the old one offline, and there you go. Pretty easy. Worst case scenario, like I say, I would go and I would just do a Google search. There's a lot of information on migrating from 2000 to 2012, but that's basically all it is. And again, from 2000 to 2012, from 2003 to 2012, from 2008 to 2012. That's basically the process that you would do. So this question comes from Kuro, and I'm sure is at the top of many of your guys' minds. When you had the Daily Blob, people had no choice but to sit through the sponsor section. With the pre-recorded format, people can easily skip past the sponsor section. How do you feel about this? Blah, blah, right? So as you guys know, I get paid multiple different ways. Two of the ways that I get paid is one through YouTube advertising. Every time you watch one of the videos, commercial for Coca-Cola or Allstate or Cisco pops up and I get a fraction of a cent every time that happens. And then also for my sponsors. So my sponsors all pay money, and then I have a little sponsor section in the middle of the video, and I have links below the video. And so the question is now that I'm doing this whole pre-recorded format thing, how do I feel about people skipping through the sponsor section? And really, yeah. Yeah, I mean that's how it goes. That's the reality of the YouTube world, and I can't really force you guys to sit through 2 minutes of advertising, and there you go, I guess. I wish you all would sit through 2 minutes of advertising, but I can completely understand if you don't, because frankly, I don't when I watch other people's videos, if you get my drift. So what I've decided to do with the whole sponsor section in the middle, what I do right now is if you notice, every single time I add the sponsor clips, I'm now shuffling them, so different people are in the beginning and different people are at the end. And so the reason that I did that is so a lot of times when you're listening to YouTube, you'll have it on in the background, and so the idea is before you realize you're listening to a sponsor commercial, you'll get at least halfway through it or whatever before you click ahead. So that's the first thing. The other thing that I have been thinking about, I don't know if I will actually do at the end of the day, is actually creating something called basically what I've been thinking about doing is making unskippable ads, and that is probably where we will be going to in the future. And the idea with that is put the little ads and make them about 5 seconds long, and then basically just put them at the end of every section. So you get to the end of the main bit, and it says Nerds, we can fix that. If you want to start your own computer services company, call Nerds, we can fix that. And that's all it is, right? And the idea there is that it's 5 seconds, so it's a little bit annoying, but it's only 5 seconds, so it doesn't piss you off too much. And it's only 5 seconds, so it's really even not worth the time to skip it. Like by the time you're hearing the ad, it's already over. But by the time you realize you're hearing the ad, it's already over, and then we'll go from there. So I mean that's basically what I'm thinking about at this point. I know some people will be very irritated with that. Eli, that's not right. But I've got to get paid. I've got to get paid so I can do things like pay Jimmy and buy equipment and do all that kind of stuff. And so sponsors pay the bill. So that is my thought. So as far as people skipping through the sponsorship section, I mean, whatever. What am I supposed to say? No, don't do it, right? I get a little pissed off. When people use ad block, that irritates me. You're skipping through the sponsor section, whatever. And yeah, so those are my thoughts. But I do think the unskippable ads will be coming soon, because I think that is probably the best for everybody's world. It'll actually be less time. That's one thing too, is before everybody starts getting up in frickin' arms, but hey, you lie. Calm down. Is if I turn it down to 5 seconds, even if I have 10 sponsors, that's only 50 seconds total for the entire, for like a 40-minute video, it would be less than a minute of sponsor ads, compared to now it's about 2.5 minutes. So, you know, and that's what you always try to do in business. What you always try to do in business is you always try to make it better for everybody involved. So if I do these unskippable ads, that means all of you guys will basically have to hear the ads if you watch my show, which is better for my sponsors. But it's also better for you guys because it's like half the length of the, you know what I'm saying? If that makes any sense. So those are the thoughts. Again, that is the plan. We will see what happens. So for these final thoughts for today, I wanted to go a little philosophical, since the man, the comedian god, just killed himself yesterday or the day before. Robbin Williams is dead. Oh, apparently hung himself with a belt. That is just a nasty way to go. I do have to say, I mean, I'm not one for suicide, but I think there's got to be better ways to go than hanging yourself with a belt. That just seems like a horrible thing. But I want to talk about Robbin Williams for just a minute, for you guys to be thinking about. Because one of the things that I see with you guys, or a lot of noobs out there, is this whole idea is, if only X, Y, or Z, then everything would be wonderful, right? If only you had enough money, if only people listened to you, if only this, if only that, if only the other thing, then everything would be great and wonderful. And one of the things I do want to remind you guys, and we get reminded by this, you know, when we see Robbin Williams die or any of these people commit suicide, is that a lot of these little forms of success, the things that we think are important in life, really are not that important in life. And you see these people, I mean, multi-millionaires at the top of their game. I mean, Hoffman, Seymour Hoffman or whatever. I mean, just literally overdosed from heroin or whatever. And so I want you guys to think a little bit about that when you go through your life, and especially when you're dealing with other people and trying to figure out what you want to do. Because there is this idea, like I say, is like, if only I had all of these things, then life would be great. And what you find out in the real world of business and technology and life is a lot of those things don't matter. The money doesn't necessarily matter. The house doesn't necessarily matter. The prestige doesn't necessarily matter. If you're not really happy internally, then everything else sucks. I mean, that's one of the things that I tell you guys is, you know, when I went to talk to people for advice, right? I talk to everybody. I talk to ghetto dwellers. I've been in the projects talking to people all the way to, I've known people, I've had beer with people worth over $200 million. But the thing is, when I went to look for advice, I wasn't looking for the rich people. That's something I think gets left out of some of these conversations when I talk to you guys. I didn't go out and I didn't look for the rich people and find out how they became rich. What I did is I went out and I found the happy people that also were financially well off. And that's one thing to understand, is that's two different things. You can have millions and millions and millions of dollars and be absolutely miserable, and you can have a few $1 million and be very happy. And the thing you have to ask yourself is, you know, what's the most important thing? Do you want to have the most money possible but have a crappy life, or would you like to have a lot of money and a happy life all at the same time? And so that's one of the things that I want you guys to think about when you're going out there into the world, is when you are looking for mentors, when you are looking for people to ask advice and all that, find people who actually have the types of lives that you want to have. Not just the money, not just the success, not just the fame, not just the fortune, but go out and find the people that are living the overall lifestyle that you want. And I think that will make you more successful in life. I really do. That's like I say, that's what I did when I went out there and I went to find mentors and all that. I did. I'll admit it. I went after the mentors that had a few bucks in the bank. But the more important thing for me was that they were actually happy and they were satisfied with where they were in life. And I think that'll be good for you. So that's a very important thing. And then the other thing with this whole thing with Robbin Williams killing himself is I also want you to realize when you're going out there and you're dealing with the C-level executives and you're dealing with the management and dealing with leadership. Again, one of the problems we get into in this world is we think, if only I had $1,000,000, if only I had a big house, if only I had a yacht, whatever. And what we see by this is that people that are successful aren't necessarily very happy. So you have to be very careful. Again, one of the problems I see with a lot of the employees out there is they treat their bosses and managers and leadership like crap because they think, oh, well, you're so successful, you have everything, I'm screwed, you suck. And one of the things just to keep in mind is that their lives are not necessarily great. Again, they may have the house and all that, but they may not be very happy. They may be depressed as hell. They may be half tempted to put a gun to their own heads. And so if you go to them and you treat them like complete assholes day in and day out, they are not going to end up treating you very well. Again, one of the surprising things, one of the reasons that I have been successful in life is the type A personality a-holes I go and I'm nice to. And you'll be surprised. You will be surprised when you are nice to type A assholes. They're very generous, if you get what I'm saying. So yeah. So just some things to think about with Robbin Williams' suicide. It's so weird, like Robbin Williams of all people. I mean, like Seymour Hoffman, he is a good actor, but whatever. But like Robbin Williams of all people, the fact that he's dead, much less that he committed suicide. Ugh. But the things I want you guys to think about is when you're going out there to figure out what you want to do in life, find the people that, yes, are financially successful, but are also happy. And then also realize all those people that are around you that are financially successful, they may not be happy. And yeah, again, as I always say, just treat everybody like a human being and life will be a lot better. So as you guys know, geekbraindump.com keeps growing and growing. We're up to something like 740 posts now and over 200 authors. And a lot of people have complained about this general theme, and I've been using basically a basic 2014 theme from WordPress in order to get the site going. And I do have to agree there are some issues with this theme. It just, I don't know, it looks a little weird, I guess you could say. So I'm looking to change up the theme, just so you guys know. Looking to actually purchase this editor theme, and I think this will be easier for being able to read on the site. So this is a little more, I would argue visually appealing. I'm sure a lot of people out there will will say nasty things, but my thought is it's visually appealing. Basically, we can just go here and we can see things like all the different categories. If you go onto the home page here, you see the featured posts and all that. And then on the left-hand side, you can see all of the new posts. So I can just go here and go, oh, look, there's a post for LinkedIn. Let me click on this and let's see what this person has to say. And I can basically just sit and I can scroll up or down to figure out, what I want to see, so on and so forth. So here I can do a load more and keep scrolling down and see all of the new articles. So this is my thought for the new theme for geekbraindump.com. Again, I don't plan to be changing the theme for geekbraindump.com very often, but I have heard you guys, and I do agree there's something a little wonky with the 2014 theme. So my thought is to go over to this editor theme and leave this for a while. So that's my thoughts. We will see how it goes. I'm sure some people will love it and some people will hate it, but as the owner of a company, you just gotta make some changes sometimes.